Hey, hi, how are you? My name's Felt. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're actually talking about Dragoon. I know, kind of weird. A job that I talk about loving is one of my favorites, even if I don't play it a ton. For those of you who don't know, my background with Dragoon is the job I started with in this game, and it's the job that I played through essentially the entirety of Shadowbringers for that entire expansion. So for basically the first full year of my playtime of this game, this was the only job that I truly played at all. In terms of endgame content, before I got more comfortable and started, playing everything, getting to Omni whatever, trying out new jobs, yada yada yada. But I feel like I have a pretty solid understanding of Dragoon. Albeit not perfect, but a pretty solid understanding of the job, and generally just a good time talking about it, as it's one of my favorites still. It's a job that I still feel like I can pick up whenever the hell I want to and be able to play it pretty decently. The reason this video is being made is because Square Enix has announced that the job is undergoing a form of a rework in the future, but it is going to be delayed until the next expansion. Now, that implies it's going to be a pretty sizable rework, and a lot of people out there that I've seen have been a little hesitant and been like, well, but like Dragoon feels fine right now. It has a lot of fun. But I'm gonna go over like why I think, even if the job is fine, they should go through with their rework that they're talking about. Because of a few reasons I'll go through. But let's start by talking about like the basis of Dragoon and how it functions as a job right now. Right now, it's incredibly static. You go through your two different variants of rotations, the one that applies your damage buff and damage over time, and the one that applies your two biggest damage skills. So, outside of that, you have a lot of OGCDs that you're pushing, and you're pushing on them a lot of the time. You're pushing High Jump, Garrus Gogol, you get pushing Mirage Dive, which is what High Jump turns into. You're going to be pushing your Dragonfire Dive, applying all your buffs, hitting your Wormwind thrusts, potting, using Garrus Gogol, using Nostrons when you're inside of your Blood of the Dragon window, Life of the Dragon window. I don't know why I always confuse those. I apologize, it is the Life of the Dragon window when you use Stardiver and Nostron. But I'm going to list off every single OGCD button, as in not one of your standard GCDs, that should be getting pressed during your 2-minute burst window on Dragoon, which means they were supposed to be fitting inside of the 20 seconds that Dragonsight and Lance Charge give you, and a lot of it should be trying to fit into the 15 seconds that Battle Litany gives you, right? I'm going to list off all the OGCDs that Dragoon is supposed to use, right? Spine Shatter Dive, Spine Shatter Dive again, High Jump, Mirage Dive, Garrus Gogol, 2 Nostrons. You will use Nostron twice. Wormwind Thrust, Dragonfire Dive, Stardiver, a Potion if it happens to be a Potion window, and Life Surge. Do you know how many buttons that is? 2 Spine Shatters, High Jump, Mirage Dive, Garrus Gogol, Nostron, Stardiver, Dragonfire Dive, Wormwind Thrust, Potion, and a Life Surge. That is 12 button presses. Outside of your GCDs, that is 12 button presses. And Stardiver gets its own weave window. Your Potion gets its own weave window. Now, don't get me wrong, you can Potion just before you enter it. You can Potion like right before you use Dragonsight and Lance Charge, so maybe it doesn't need to fit under those. But think about the fact that you need to still put at least 11 buttons on cooldown, all inside of Battle Litany, one of which requires its own weave window, and another of which almost requires its own weave window. And Spine Shatter Dive and High Jump can only be double woven if you're very good at taking care of your job and are very on top of your rotation, as well as just have pretty good ping that day. The change they made to their animation speed made it possible to double weave them, but it can still be difficult sometimes, even for more experienced Dragoons like myself, if you're having a bad ping day. But that's a lot of freaking buttons! And so as much as I like the job and love the way it flows right now and enjoy the way it feels as a job, I can understand that it feels kind of packed to the brim with buttons. There's not really any room to add more. Like, what would you do? What would you add to that? There's so much just absolute depth of buttons there. And it's not even like it takes up most of your hotbar, because it's Garrus Gogol and High Jump are transformative buttons now. Or, well, Garrus Gogol always was, but High Jump is now a transformative button. But just, you have nowhere to go. And that is kind of a problem for the job right now. So as much as I love its current state, I do want them to try and find a way to slightly rework things so that you still keep the identity of Dragoon being the jumpy, spear-throwing dragon slayer that it is. But also maybe just open up a little bit of room to add a few more skills. Because at this point, all I can imagine them doing is adding maybe trait upgrades to the job, because I cannot imagine a single thing that could be fit inside of its burst windows right now, outside of basically needing to rework the job. It is in a similar position of a job, like, say, Black Mage. Black Mage kind of is in its, like, little hole of, like, I spam my Fire 4s until I need to push another button. It's why all that they really got this expansion was, okay, cool, you get a free Polyglot stack, and you get Paradox in place of Fire 1 or Blizzard 3, you know? You get something that's a little more in-depth, but the way that they did it for Black Mage worked better and added a bit more, right? Because they added something that could give you movement inside your ice phase and freed up your ice phase a bit more to be more lenient, but you can't really do that with Dragoon because it has a very static GCD rotation. So as cool as it would be to just kind of add an extra thing, there's not really many places to put it on Dragoon, unfortunately. So that's it. That's kind of my thoughts on the whole matter. I just kind of wanted to make like a short little thing about it, talking about Dragoon. It's a job that I love. It's a job that I love to discuss with people. If you have any discussion, comments, concerns, complaints, or anything about Dragoon, feel free to leave them below. Like the video if you want to see more videos and discussions like this, and subscribe if you really want to see more. And I will hope to catch you in the next one.